Should I say it now or later? Because this experience cost me more than just my millions. It nearly cost me my life. And it taught me a lesson I wish I knew 40 years ago. In this video, I'll share exactly what happened and how you can avoid it. At 69, I was a millionaire. I had the cars, the house, and a retirement that looked like a permanent vacation. Today, at 82, I'm counting coins for bread in an apartment that smells like regret. They say never marry for money. I didn't. I married for love when I had absolutely nothing, but I lost everything because I forgot one thing. People change, even if your memories of them don't change. I'm 82 years old. I don't have another 40 years to make this money back. I don't even have 10. My mistakes are permanent. But yours don't have to be. I'm sharing this because I don't want you to end up here wondering where the person you trusted went. Subscribe to this channel. Not for me, I'm at the end of my road, but for the you 20 years from now. Because the woman in this photo, she was my ride or die. She was there when I had zero, and that's exactly why I never saw the knife coming until it was already buried in my back. But before the betrayal, there was a struggle and a secret agreement I made that would eventually become my death warrant. We started with nothing but a mattress on the floor and a shared dream. Back then, Elena was my hero. When my first business failed and the debt collectors were calling, she didn't thieve. She took a second job at a diner to keep the lights on. That kind of loyalty does something to a man's brain. It creates a tenure of trust that feels unbreakable. I fell into the ultimate emotional trap. I thought, if she stayed when I was broke, she'll never leave when I'm rich. I gave her total transparency. I gave her the keys to every account, every password, every secret. I thought I was being a good husband. In reality, I was hand-delivering her the roadmap to my eventual destruction. We spent 30 years building. I worked 80-hour weeks while she managed the home. We were a team, or so I thought, because while I was focused on building the empire, she was quietly observing how the gates were locked. By the time I turned 60, the business took off. The millions started rolling in. I felt invincible. I decided to reward her loyalty in a way that most men would consider noble. It was a gesture that seemed perfect at the time, but it was the very first brick I pulled out of my own foundation. At 69, I sold the company. The wire transfer hit, and the number had 7 digits. I remember taking Elena to a 5-star dinner and telling her, "We made it. This is ours." I meant it. I stayed the same old school guy. I still liked my cheap coffee and my old tools, but success changed her. She didn't see the money as a tool for our future. She saw it as a back pay reward for the years she suffered when we were poor. The dynamic shifted. Suddenly, she wasn't my partner. She was a curator of a lifestyle I didn't even want. And I, blinded by my gratitude for her early years, made the single biggest financial mistake of my life. I put everything, the new mansion, the stock portfolios, the vintage car collection, into joint accounts and joint titles. I wanted her to feel secure. I wanted her to know that after 40 years, I still trusted her with my life. I thought a thank you should be written in ink and deeds. But the moment the ink dried on those joint titles, something in her eyes changed. The warmth was replaced by a cold, calculating stillness. She knew something I didn't. She knew that legally, she didn't need to be married to me anymore to keep half of that money. And then on my 75th birthday, the silence in our house became deafening. It started with the strategic coldness. The affection vanished. The conversations became transactions. At 75, I realized she was no longer living with me. She was preparing for a life without me. And this is where I need you to pay attention, because this is the legal trap most men fall into. It's called Transmutation of Assets. I thought my business money was mine because I earned it. But because I moved that separate money into our joint accounts to pay for our lifestyle. The law decided I had gifted her half of my entire life's work. I was essentially paying her to leave me, and I didn't even know it yet. Then came the day I walked into the kitchen, and there was a folder on the marble island. No note, just a summons. She was filing for divorce. At 78 years old, I was being forced into a legal arena I wasn't prepared for. I was too old to start a new company, and too tired to fight a woman who knew every one of my weaknesses. I thought the court would see our 40 years of history. I thought they would see her early loyalty and my hard work. I was wrong. The court doesn't see love, it only sees assets. And her lawyers were about to pull a move so dirty it would drive me to the brink of the unthinkable. Her lawyers didn't just want half, they wanted it all. They started filing motions claiming I was mentally incompetent due to my age. They tried to put my remaining assets under a conservatorship, meaning I wouldn't even have the right to buy my own groceries without a court's permission. Listen to me carefully. If you are married or planning to be, you need to know about the postnuptial agreement. Most people think prenups are only for before the wedding. Wrong. You can sign a postnup at any time to ring-fence your assets. If I had done this when the business sold, I wouldn't be sitting in this one-bedroom apartment. Today, another tool I ignored was the Asset Protection Trust. If I had placed my wealth into an irrevocable trust with my children as beneficiaries, she couldn't have touched a dime of the principal. But instead, I put it in her name to show love. In family court, showing love is a financial death sentence. Every day in that courtroom felt like a year off my life. I watched 40 years of memories being shredded by strangers in suits. By the end of the first year of litigation, I was down to my last few $100,000. I was broken, alone, and staring at a bottle of pills on my nightstand, wondering if I should just end the story right there. I'm losing my pride so you don't lose your life's work. In this room, we don't do pretty lies. We do the hard truths that save legacies. If you value a man's word and hard-earned wisdom, hit subscribe and join us. You aren't just following a channel, you're joining a brotherhood of protection. I want to see how far this warning is reaching. Drop a comment with 2 things. 1, where are you watching from? And 2, answer me this. After hearing my story, do you believe true loyalty still exists in 2026? I'm reading every response. Your comment might be the wake-up call another man needs to hear. Subscribe, speak your truth, and let's get back to the night. Everything almost ended. There's a specific kind of silence that happens when you realize you've been discarded. At 80, I felt disposable. I sat by the bridge near our old house for 3 hours one night. I thought about how easy it would be. If I was gone, the fight would be over. She would get the life insurance, the house, and the victory. But then I looked at that photo again, the one of us when we were broke, and I realized she didn't just betray me. She betrayed that young girl in the photo too. She had traded her soul for a portfolio, and if I ended my life, I was letting her win the final round. I decided right then that I'd rather be a living warning than a silent memory. I put the pills back in the cabinet. A cold businessman's clarity returned to me. If she wanted to play a game of numbers and laws, I was going to play one more hand. I had 10% of my wealth left, the last of my emergency fund. I knew the judge was going to award her the rest of it in the final hearing. I had 3 weeks to do something so radical, so controversial, that it would change my life forever and make me a villain in the eyes of the law. I did something they'll tell you is immoral. Some might even call it illegal. I liquidated everything I had left. Every stock, every bond, every piece of jewelry. I turned it into physical gold and moved it into an untraceable offshore digital trust. I gifted it to an entity she will never find and a name she will never know. When I walked into that final hearing, I looked the judge in the eye and showed him my bank statements. 0. I told them I'd lost the rest on bad investments and medical bills. I stood there, an 82-year-old man with nothing to his name. My alimony obligations evaporated. Her legal team, they had nothing left to bleed out of me. Is it hiding assets or is it survival? I'll let you decide in the comments. I'd rather be a broke man with a secret than a rich man who let a traitor win. I technically live on a government check now. I live in this tiny apartment, but she's living in a mansion she can't afford the taxes on, with no more alimony checks coming to save her. I lost my millions. I lost my wife. I almost lost my life. But in the end, I kept the one thing she couldn't take, my dignity. But there is one final warning I have for you. The one thing I saw her do right before I left that house for the last time, as I was packing my last suitcase, I saw her in the hallway. She wasn't crying. She was already on the phone with a realtor, talking about upgrades to the house. That was the moment I realized, to some people, you aren't a human being. You are a ladder. And once they reach the roof, they don't need the ladder anymore. My final lesson to you is this. Trust, but verify. Love with your heart, but sign with your head. Never assume that the person who walked through the fire with you won't be the one who pushes you into the ashes later. Check your titles. Check your accounts. Don't let your history blind you to your future. If you're building something today, protect it. Not because you don't love your partner, but because you love your future self enough to keep him safe. I'm 82. My story is mostly written, but yours is just beginning. Don't let your ride or die become your death and taxes. Please hit the subscribe button, like this video, and share it too. More people need to see this video. Thank you for your attention.